The future of any person's success is based predominantly upon the image they hold of themselves. By taking the time to understand the psychology and the physiology of the self, it can mean the difference between accomplishment and failure, bitterness and happiness, thriving and surviving. The discovery of the real self can rescue a collapsing financial status, recreate a faltering career, repair a dysfunctional relationship, and transform a life of mediocrity into a radiant existence. On a universal plane, discovering the real self means the difference between total freedom and the constraints of negative, habitual behavior. Through carefully comprehending the self-image and by learning to modify it to suit personal purposes, we gain incredible confidence and power in our ability to literally create what we want from life. We each carry a mental map or picture of ourselves that is perfectly capable of being altered if it doesn't suit the image that we'd really like to hold and live. The self-image is our own conception of the type of person we perceive ourselves to be. It dictates who we are to ourselves as well as to the outside world. This self-image is built upon our beliefs about ourselves that have unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our successes and failures, our discomforts, our triumphs, and the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. Once an idea or belief about ourselves goes into this picture, it becomes truth as far as we personally are concerned. We do not question its validity, but proceed to act it out in the movie of our life just as if it were true. The self-image then controls what can and can't be accomplished, what is perceived as difficult or easy, even the responses received from others. More specifically, all actions, feelings, behavior, and capabilities are always consistent with this self-image. Not sometimes, always. You will always act like the sort of person you recognize yourself to be. More so, you literally cannot act otherwise, in spite of all your efforts, unless you reevaluate and alter your internal self-image. The person who identifies themselves as poverty-stricken will find some way to remain poor despite all good intentions. The person who has a personal awareness of always being a victim will on every occasion find circumstances to verify the opinion of this suffering. One who has announced themselves as always being sick will find themselves without any remedy for what ails them. You can insert any particular you want into this equation: weight loss, relationships, career, loneliness, bad luck, and so on. The effects of any personal interpretation of the self are universal and based on a cause that is rooted deep within the belief system. The self-image is a conclusion and a foundation upon which the entire personality, behavior, and circumstances are built. Accordingly, experiences and manifestations have no choice but to verify and thereby strengthen our self-images, whether they may be a brutal or a beneficial cycle. Whatever is deemed difficult for a person, whatever frustrations they may have in their life, outward conditions are likely proving and reinforcing those things based on natural laws. On the other side of the coin, whatever a person announces as easy for them, or whatever portion of the identity has developed a belief in something as effortless, painless, and unchallenging, is also strengthened and supported by these same laws. Whichever reality happens to be the case, it's based on certain fixed and possibly concealed patterns of thought that, if changed, will offer new experiences with vastly different results. The most important thing to note about the self-image is that it has the capability of being altered once you reach the root of the cause of the discomfort. One of the reasons it seems so difficult for people to change the reality is because they spend all of their efforts attempting to manipulate their exterior circumstances rather than working on the interior of the self, which is where the true power of manifestation lies. You have a choice. you can choose to be different. With choice comes change, and with change comes measurable transformation. The trick is to create new, quality, and empowering memories for your cells to work with. It is as though you're writing a script for the cells in your body to act out. In other words, certain patterns of thinking and behaving make themselves apparent when reviewing just how people are able to manifest their desired goals. In turn, the cells within their physical body are in total alignment with behavior and beliefs. Maybe you know of someone who, for some reason, seems to consistently reach his or her goals seemingly easily and effortlessly. The fact is, there are those who know how to create their future in an uncomplicated way, but if you were to ask them how, they'd probably be unable to tell you in any detail. That's because for most people who do things exceptionally well, the secret of their skills resides almost totally at the subconscious level. In order to create the changes you want in your life, it's highly important that you learn to effectively communicate with your subconscious mind the directions for how you want to think, feel, and behave instead of any old fear-based responses and negative sabotaging self-images. A well-formed outcome or goal is one that is stated in such a way that is particularly appealing to the subconscious mind because it is communicated in a language that this portion of the mind speaks and understands. Here's the key. The language of the brain is vivid, sensory, rich imagination coupled with intense feeling. As you continually play the character you've always played within the movie of your life, change will be near impossible to create. If you don't alter your script, and therefore the script that your subconscious mind has learned to play, which in turn hands down the script to your cells, those little signal transmitters, you will have a difficult time altering your life. However, you can change your character, your movie, and consequently your entire life by practicing the steps given in the upcoming exercise for an average of 10 to 15 minutes per day. Every time you run through this exercise, you are literally giving your subconscious mind a new command for how you want it to respond regarding your new self-image, which in turn will pass the information to the cells so they can emit the new signal. The key to making this exercise work really well for you is to create a particularly vivid, detailed, and compelling experience of what it is like to actually experience your ultimate outcome. From this point forward, you have the ability to recreate your behavior and image in a positive, directed, and fully purposeful way, designed to produce the states, behaviors, signals, and circumstances you want in life rather than more of what you don't want. As Albert Einstein said, the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination.
Here's the 3 phases of creation. You start out with fantasy. Consider that you're acting. You're an actor. You become the actor, and you act, in your own mind. You can be doing this in a crowded subway, and you see yourself in that role. You see yourself actually doing it. Okay? You build the fantasy. Now, you just play with that. You might fool around with that for a week or two. Just keep, until you start to become familiar with going there. And you'll find you can go there in a millisecond just like that. Now, keep this in mind. As you're building that fantasy, you're tucking it into cells in your brain. Well, now, you've got the fantasy. Now what you want to do, you got to put it in print. How do you do that? Well, you got to take it and you got to activate another intellectual factor. See, the intellectual factor of imagination was used to build the fantasy. Now you're going to theory. Now you activate the reasoning factor. And you start to change this from fantasy into something that's intellectual. It's real in your mind. And you start to describe it. You start to put it in words. And each word represents a picture. So what you're doing is you're painting your picture now in words. That's what a book is. It's a picture painted in words. And the second you say, I'm able, I'm willing, and I'm able, and I'm going to do it. Boom, it becomes a goal. You're going to be taking the goal and you're going to plant it in the garden of the mind. That part of you is a part of everything. That's the infinite side of you. And get this, it operates one way. It is totally deductive. In other words, it does not have the ability to change anything. Exactly what you plant, that's what you're going to get. Now, when you plant it there and you understand this, that's when it begins to move into form and becomes a fact. So you go from fantasy to theory to fact. Now, when you do that, you're in the position to build bigger and better fantasies. So you're always growing and moving to a higher plane. That is the creative process. There's your mind. You have a conscious and subconscious in your body. Your subconscious mind has a paradigm in it. Part of it is the self-image. That self-image controls your actions. It controls your results. I want you to really pay attention here. There is a thermostat. A thermostat operates on a cybernetic system. And you set the thermostat to control the temperature of the room at 70 degrees. Well, the cybernetic mechanism in the thermostat measures the deviation from the set goal. It sends a signal to the furnace for the fan to turn on, and it starts to blow hot air into the room. Until such time as the temperature in that room gets back up to 70 degrees. When the room hits 70 degrees, fan's automatically turned off. That's how a cybernetic mechanism operates. It all happens automatically. Now let's look at it from another point of view. There's an airplane. It's leaving Chicago and it's going to go to Paris. A flight pattern's programmed into the plane's computer. So it goes along and it'll hit some turbulence. And that turbulence will knock the plane off course. The second the plane leaves the flight pattern, the cybernetic system is activated and the plane's brought right back onto course. This all happens automatically. The pilot had nothing to do with changing that. Understand this. Your self-image operates on a cybernetic mechanism. You can make all kinds of decisions on a conscious level. If you don't alter that self-image, nothing changes. Build a better picture of yourself and say, this is going to happen. Come hell or high water, this is who I'm going to be from now on.